Hello, welcome to this video. Today I am going to show you how to make a donut in Dreams and then light it and add a camera and set up the scene, so we end up with something like this with lights and cameras and stuff. So in my settings, when I'm dream shaping, I usually set the default sculpt mode to stamp shape. I have the show floor guide turned off, and that's it. So let's go and create our donut. We'll start with like the base, and then we'll do like the glazing and then the sprinkles and the decoration. So let's do that. So when I did my donut, I just selected donut. I'm going to make this stay upright so that it doesn't lean or anything. This is the most difficult part of the donut, because a donut is not just like, it has like a center point to it. So this is made up of 4 of these donut shapes, and it doesn't have a blend mode to it. There's no blend mode, and I just placed it so that there's a little bit in the middle with variation. So it's varied and it's not like even around, so that's our base. Now to do the glazing, there's a really easy way to do it. What I do is duplicate what I already have by L1, R2, scale it up slightly so that is on top. And then what I do once that happens, like I scope into the one that's on top, and then under tools I select the crop tool and then just crop out a section of the glazing. And with the cube, I L1 square and go the blend amount just a little bit so that we get a nice kind of edge like that. So with the glazing, I select sphere, make sure we're in the stamp shape, and we'll just set the blend amount of the sphere all the way up, and then go around like the perimeter to create bumps and stuff. But you don't want it to be even, so sometimes you might want to scale up and down to get different kind of thicknesses, and just adjust it about. You can also press triangle to take some away, and I find that to be much more helpful. And then you don't want it to be even either, so what I do is go even on the top just slightly and create these little bumps, because glazing, they also have air bubbles that kind of pop once they've like go on top of the base. So that's what you kind of want, is like this uneven, imperfect kind of surface. You can alternate by pressing triangle, whether you want to add more or take less out. I'm going to create the piping. So usually there's like a piping pattern on the donut, and to do the piping pattern is similar to the glazing that we just did. We just duplicate the glazing, scale it up a little bit so that is on top. Instead of like the crop tool, we're going to use the cutout, and with the cutout we're going to select a cube, and we'll make it so that the cube is kind of like this shape. So I'll make the blend amount up a little bit so the edges are more round. I scope out, and then from here I start from the end and then just do the piping. The piping is like, it's a liquid, so it would kind of drip down a little bit, so I go blend amount all the way up and then add these little droplets that kind of drip and stray away from like the computeryness of it. So you want to manually adjust like the piping so that it kind of drips down the donut. You can even have some that drips off of the glazing as well, because I think that adds to the realism. And yeah, just add a couple of these drops here and there. So to do the sprinkles, we'll go to the sculpt mode and then select the curve tool. So sculpt mode, then curve tool. So I usually scale down the curve all the way down L1 square and then kind of stretch it out like this. And from here I do add a little bit of like a wobble to it. What I do is use a surface snap so that it actually sticks to the glaze. If you swipe on the touchpad, it'll rotate like this. So once it's rotating, I then spam it all across. So there we go. And what I usually do once it's all sprinkled out is kind of do like another pass where I just check if there are any floating in the sky, and then I just delete the ones that are floating in the sky or move it down so that it's actually sticking on the thing. And if there's not enough sprinkles, what I do is duplicate, rotate it, and then, you know, now I have even more sprinkles. And then I do the same thing with this group and make sure nothing's like floating around and stuff. We'll add our lights. So when I add a light, I just go with the light and point it down towards the donut. But it's too harsh, so I usually turn the beam angle up, fade angle up, the beam range down a little bit, and also the brightness to around, so that it's low, around this much. And then I bring it up close, duplicate it. Now what I want to do with the floor is under the sculpture, make it neat. We'll go turn up the impasto and we'll change the floor so that it's red. And I'll turn off the luminoise and make it kind of grayish. And we'll just adjust the sky. So turn off the sun visibility. Make the sky kind of grey. Turn up the tint. Turn off flex, shade, randomness, the horizon definition down, so that we get a nice kind of even light. And then from here I'll add a little bit of a yellow tint to the sky so that it feels a bit warm. And what I'll do is use grade effects and then turn up the bloom all the way, turn off the lens flare, turn up the kind of border, and we'll adjust the brightness so that it's down slightly. The mid-tone will add a little bit of a yellow to it. Add a bit of a grain. Sharpness, we might make it a bit more sharp. And chromic aberration, we'll turn that up a little bit, like 25%. And now we'll add a camera. L1X to scope in, and then we'll just use the analog sticks to position the camera and get a nice angle on the donut. So if we go up and down on the D-pad, we can zoom in and out. But the thing that makes it look like photography is the aperture and the depth of field. So we're gonna turn up the depth of field aperture up, and then the distance of the camera's focal point onto the donut. So we'll have a little bit of foreground kind of blurred out and background kind of blurred out. So with the ground, I want a little bit more shadow or a bit more shininess to it, so that we get like the nice kind of specular texture. And we'll play around with the waxiness of the ground and just note how it also affects the donut. So something that I don't think many people are aware of is like the environment, like the surrounding objects also have a little bit of a bounce light kind of effect onto our subject. So if you turn up the ground, you can see like the donut also becomes lighter. And we just make the reds, I think it looks better, slightly darker. And we'll turn it up 200%. So you can make it so that it's exactly the same kind of settings I have if you want. But you can also experiment around with your own settings if you want as well. We'll start with the base. Usually I make it pretty waxy and pretty shiny so that we get the nice edge to it. And then under the fleck properties, I turn up the impasto and ruffle it a little bit so that we get that kind of bread look. And from here I might duplicate some of the light and kind of just put it on the edge a little bit, and with the opposite side as well. So now we get these kind of nice bright spots on the donut. And now it depends on your kind of taste. I was going for the Homer Simpson kind of look. So maybe like a pink glaze if you want to. And I usually make it slightly waxy, and depends on how oily you want it. I was gonna go with the Homer Simpson look, but yeah, it depends on what we want. And with the piping, I just select all of the piping, and we might go with the jam look. So I select red, make it dark a little bit. It doesn't really look like jam because it's not shiny enough, so we'll turn up the shininess and also the metallic property. So now it's kind of like a jam donut. We might make it slightly more red as well, like slightly more pink. I don't know. Depends on what kind of a flavor you want. You can go chocolate, like chocolate is good. A chocolate jam donut. Yeah. Quite a few options. And with the sprinkles, what I usually do is just make it a little bit more milky and turn up the whites and make it shiny and bring up the waxiness, because it does have like a subsurface kind of thing going on. So the last thing I do now is adjust the detail all the way up. So increase the detail and just increase it so that it's higher fidelity. But note, when you do that, it also changes like the thermometer. So keep that in mind while you're doing this. So to get like the smooth kind of edges on the glazing and all of that, I don't necessarily do it to the base area because you want that kind of texture, but I do it for the glazing and the piping detail. So now when you enter this camera angle, it kind of looks like this. Yeah, some of the finishing touches I do, like I duplicate the glazing a little bit more, scale it up a little bit, convert it to a painting, so we get an extra texture kind of layer on top. And then with this, I turn down the opacity, but then I'll make this shinier than what is actually there. So we get a little bit of both worlds. So we get something that kind of blends out, but we also get a variety on the glaze where some parts are shinier than others. So that's a little bit of an extra thing that I do. So some parts are nice and smooth and some parts have like the grainy kind of texture to it. The last thing I do is Dreams. It has a sticker mode now, and I always add like the sticker mode now. So that's under the text. That's the text display gadget, and I turn off the border. Press space when you enter text so that you actually get something to work with, and then I'll turn on in scene and sticker mode. Turn up the depth all the way, and under like the border, I turn off auto fit, and then just adjust this so that it's over the donut, and I'll turn off the shadow as well, and we'll just adjust it so that it's over the donut, and we'll scale it up, and I'll rotate the text gadget so that we can see it from the camera's point of view. I just go painterly effect and kind of select this texture. Under this, I'll make the texture scale, like you can have a play around with it, but you know, maybe around this much, and then the texture strength all the way up, and then the opacity kind of like blending into the donut a little bit. But I'll select everything on this donut and then make it as one group. So I'll group the whole donut together, make sure I've selected everything, group it, and then scope this text gadget into the group so that it only affects the group and not like the surrounding. And then, you know, I just adjust the grade effect so that you can see more of that detail. So if we press options and then play it now, this is what it looks like. And then to get rid of the imp, we just scope into the camera and hide imp, and then that's it. And I'm never satisfied with what I have here. So maybe I'll add some peanuts to it. So with a sphere, I can section the sphere in half, and we'll just adjust it so that it looks like a kind of peanut. Scale it down, and then in here, if you grab the color and move it across, you can have like a mix of different variety. So I pick the shade, press X on this, and then move it across like this, and then I might get a yellow kind of color, and then move it across and just kind of mix it. And just like the sprinkles, we'll go surface snap, rotate the kind of peanut, and then kind of spam the peanuts. And once it's in there, group it, and then you can duplicate some more. I can now have not just one donut, but a whole bunch of them.